Just take the damn I'll hand it over here so I can read it. What the hell it says?
Oh my God.
It says.
Before we get into this video, you should consider subscribing. Only takes a second. Click the button down below this video. Really helps us out.
Let's talk about how you determine resolution. Or what is resolution?
What is resolution?
What
How
it
do you determine it?
is, man. Like resolving power.
To be able to determine the little nuances happening, where things are placed to some extent. See, that's actually a tricky thing, though. A lot of people call resolution, a lot of people say resolution, but they mean something else. It's kind of loosely defined,
Well, that's part of the
right?
problem.
Because some people kind of sort of encompass things like soundstage into the resolution because you're able to resolve details, like determine the placement of things to some extent. I've seen that used several times. It seems like people kind of just, like everything in the industry, just make up what they want it to mean. And
Well,
it
it's
means different
confusing.
things to different people.
You know, it's not, and all you're not that you're dealing with people in different countries that
Right.
don't necessarily, English might not be their first language, and so it can
Yeah,
be
that
confusing.
definitely adds
you
a
know?
whole nother
So
layer.
definitions can be a pain in the ass, but
Right.
I think maybe we should start with an analogy.
Set up a baseline.
Yeah, like see this lens here that we just happen to have
Yeah.
laying here.
Mm.
Now, I don't know if anyone's ever had you guys had cheap telescopes in the past. You know, where you look through them and you can't see shit.
Can't see anything.
And it's all
yeah.
Yeah,
upside
they'll have
down.
like a million times magnification. And yeah, the moon's big,
And
but
upside down.
there's no detail.
Yeah,
right?
right.
Versus the one that's on a hilltop in Sweden somewhere.
They don't.
that
They
can-
don't. They
that-
don't do that. in
Okay,
Sweden.
but I'm just saying, on a hilltop somewhere. Give me a place on a hilltop.
Hawaii.
Okay, good. The one in Hawaii,
Yeah.
where they could probably see a dot of sand, a grain of sand on Mars, right, with the damn thing.
No,
Not quite.
No,
But the thing is that the resolution of the lens on the camera, even if we could use the same analogy with camera lenses too.
Yeah.
Right, just a camera. Anyone who's in the camera hobby knows that lenses are everything when you get into the upper echelon of things.
Right.
It's night and day for cheap lenses versus L glass on Canon or.
That's a fair point, though, because you could have a lens that has 100 times optical zoom, right? And it sounds, wow, that sounds good. You're going to be able to get good details out of that image. But yet, it's very common where you have all kinds of distortion in the lenses or whatever, some sort of artifacts going on that cause you to not be able to resolve details. It's basically not in focus.
It's not perfectly clear. The glass
Right.
is not perfectly clear.
There's distortions and things
masks,
happening. Right.
fine detail.
Yeah, right. So it kind of
So it's kind of separate
yeah,
in that sense.
yeah.
It's a totally independent
The
thing.
details there in the image,
Yeah.
what
Well,
you're
yeah.
taking a picture of, is obviously there's
Well, yeah, the moon.
gobs of detail.
The moon's got detail
Yeah, that too.
in real life.
Yeah, but looking at it through that lens,
Right.
those minor details get kind of schmooed over, so to speak. They're just glazed over. It's more like a congealing process where you can't really pick out the fine detail. It's a photo, it's a picture, it looks good, but you really are missing.
So what does that
fine
mean
detail.
in music?
Especially if you zoom into the photo, where you start to notice where you're not getting anywhere, even looking close up. That's a lack of resolution.
What's detail or resolution in music?
Well, it's how good you can hear anything. The instruments, vocals. It starts at the recording, obviously, works its way through the chain, mastering, to whatever media they dumb it down to where you get to listen to it on. And
Well,
I say-
technically, you could have the master tapes.
you could,
and you would
but-
have the same thing.
Yeah, you could, but probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, that'd be 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is another one of those ones that unless you've had experience with considerable number of high-end systems, it's really hard to fully understand. I think it's hard to get across to people because people are used, of course, to hearing things in everyday life. So they're familiar with sound, right? You've heard instruments. You've been to whatever live music events more often than
Mostly voice.
Sure.
That's what most people are
Very
keying
common,
on.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing
So
it all day.
people
Yeah.
perceive as them being comfortable and confident in recognizing the nuances in speech and everyday life and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think saying that there's potentially something in a recording that you can't hear, you can't resolve with one system or a piece in the chain of your system, I think for some people that haven't experienced it, that seems strange, right? Because just like everything else, it's of course always limited by the worst thing. If you have a thing in your system, DAC, an amplifier, a headphone, potentially even a cable to fit the environment even, that is really bad, it can limit your experience, it can limit your resolution or your detail. And so,
As can the cables, the transducers, the
Well,
yeah, of course,
speakers, the,
everything.
the friggin' room, if you have speakers in a
Yeah,
room.
really depends on the system, the setup, and
So,
stuff. But
you
everything
know,
matters.
And your ears.
That's true.
If you got a little wax buildup, that could always be an issue too. That certainly lowers resolution. You know.
Yeah.
So
if you're
it's
stressed
possible.
one day, it's gonna have probably less resolution than the next.
Yeah.
Or if you got a cold or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Especially.
Big difference there if you're
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
have any fluid in
Yeah, I
your
remember.
ear.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
one time I had a little under the weather, and I tried to listen to headphones, and I couldn't even do it.
Yeah.
It's like everything just sounds
bad.
bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. It's like someone stuck a friggin'
You're like-
a hat over your head and then
You
you
like
put the
put some cotton balls in your ears or something. It's like, ugh.
yeah.
I'll try
That is-
again tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a waiting game there, but no, I think resolution is exactly what it sounds like when you could picture it as a photograph, where you could see or hear it through the recording chain into the original recording, and if you can get there, then you've probably paid attention to your details in the system and everything. Where like I like to say, you're standing on the microphone.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
all your ducks in a row there, though.
You definitely need
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
the
of
problem.
you need a lot of ducks in a row. Yeah. It
What's
usually
shocking
takes-
to me is I've heard a few systems that with some details in music, you just can't hear. You don't even know it's there. And it's not necessarily that it doesn't exist, it's not obvious to you. So if you really knew it was there and you were hyper focused on finding it, you probably could find this one particular noise or ambience in the background or something. But in some systems, it's really obvious. It's just so clear. You don't need to be thinking about it. You don't need to be focused on it. You just see it, right?
Well, and many times you have to hear it first.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
why when like the cliche of I'm hearing things I've never heard before comes from.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you switch to something new and you're like, I've never even heard this before.
Right.
That
Because
happens
it's always been
sometimes.
masked.
Yeah, that's an increase in resolution.
Yeah.
And we should probably define the fact that details and resolution are kind of one and the same.
Pretty
the only
much.
difference is people confuse the word detail with brightness.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's how you get more detail, is you force information at people. And technically speaking, that's one way to get more detail,
Well, perceived.
but
more detail.
but it's a shifted it's not a fully balanced, resolved picture. In other words, you're hearing more information in one part of the spectrum, but it's not balanced with the rest of
Right.
the spectrum. So it's while you may gain resolution having more detail in certain regions of the frequency spectrum, you really, in order to have full resolution, you've got to have 20 to 20K or so. Or, of course, our last video said you don't need 20K, but
Well, we don't know
you
if that
know.
was the last video.
well, okay, yeah, one of our earlier videos we were talking about frequency response, listening
Yeah.
to frequency response or whatever. But yeah, anyway, that's the deal there, where detail can be forced at you, and that's just it's not natural at that point. If it
Well,
sounds
that's part
unnatural,
of the argument that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Because some people, they look at a system and it could be a really bright system and things will stand out that they didn't notice before. So they'll perceive that as having more detail or more resolution. And that may be the case, but it may also be misleading.
it's
It may
probably
be
not
masking.
balanced
Right. So if you
in
cause,
terms of frequency spectrum.
let's
Sorry.
assume everybody's a human, they have finite abilities, right? You could only hear so good, okay? So you could only hear this range of frequencies, this range of information at one time. So if you exaggerate one part of the spectrum, it makes it easier to hear parts in that range. So it masks kind of what's going on elsewhere. So if you boost the highs or something, it's easier for you to discern details in the highs. It doesn't necessarily mean it has more resolution.
It's kind of like
That's
putting
the challenge.
It's kind of like putting a microscope on a particular section of the music. That you can increase detail. Even a tone control can do that.
Yeah.
But
Selective increase.
yeah, but
Right.
everything's out of whack because the bass didn't come up, and that's the other thing too. Even bass can have gobs of detail in it. You should be able to hear the rolling of the drum skin. Big drums, the skin does roll. If you watched it in a slow motion video, which remember there's a video. There was a show on TV once upon a time. I forgot what it was, but they slowed everything down in motion.
Yeah.
And there was one they did with, I used to send it to people years ago, where they had one of the fastest drummers in the world play his drum kit, and they videoed it and then slowed it down in slow motion. And you watch him like bang the cymbal with his stick or the drum, and the cymbal just goes like
yeah.
slow, like you wouldn't even you don't even you just hear it,
Yeah.
but you can't believe how the metal just flows after
Right.
getting whacked.
It is shocking.
Yeah.
If you
Even
haven't
the
seen
drummer
that
couldn't
before.
believe what it looked like, and the
Yeah.
skin too. And the thing is, if you got a close up microphone on those instruments, it's going to pick up the motion of the material,
Well, yeah.
And like in our end of things, like I know in the 2-channel world, like hearing the drum skim roll, I've seen speaker cables just wipe that out, just cable. I know because when we put the JPS stuff in, you hear the drum roll, the rolling of the skin. And with a lot of stuff, it just there's no detail in the bass. It congeals it, and the resolution's not there in the low frequencies. So it doesn't sound like you're sitting next to the drum.
I'll tell you, I just so happened to run into this last night
Yeah.
with the drums. Yeah, I normally never listen to Hotel California,
Yeah.
but I ran into it yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I just want to hear what the drums sound
Yeah, we've
like.
heard
at
it
the
like 1,000
beginning, right? Yeah,
times.
I've heard it,
So you tend to avoid
infinite
it.
times.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know what this sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to hear what it sounds like on my current setup.
Yeah.
And I've never heard the drums like that before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you
you
got the
could-
sub now.
No, I mean, I'm on the headphones.
Oh, the headphones. I
Yeah.
thought you were talking speakers.
No, no.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much. It's not just a boo. I always thought it
Oh,
was
yeah.
just a boo.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Right. No, it's not.
It's not.
What's your source and gear for that one?
Manhattan 2 and GSX Mini.
Okay. On a Diana?
Yes, Diana 5.
Yeah.
With
you
an
got-
HP cable.
Yeah. You got some res there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's there. That's the cool thing is it's in the recording,
Yeah.
but along the system chain somewhere, could be in the speakers, could be in the electronics, whatever. This fine detail that creates the resolution gets filtered out. Bottom line, it gets filtered out, doesn't make it to your ear, and So anyway, yeah, it takes a lot of skill, practice, understanding what's missing and what should be there, what shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Is part of it.
Well, I never knew it was there.
Yeah.
I've heard it a
I've heard
million
it a million times. I've heard that res all kinds of times.
I just try not to listen to the song, I guess, is what
Yeah.
it really is.
I've heard the rollout with
I've never
with speakers on that.
listened to it intently. It's always on like at a show or something.
Yeah,
I never
right.
actually
No, I
listened
hear
to
you.
it.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I got dual JL fathoms
Yeah.
and on the speakers, and I've easily discerned that for a long time. But again, it's a system that was designed to do that. Was highly resolved system, 2-channel system. But anyway, yeah, that's maybe hopefully we've kind of created
Vaguely.
enough, hit enough points
Yeah, I don't know.
in people's experience levels where they, look, this just keeps going. The level of what would you call it, education in this listening to music process never ends.
Nope.
Never ends. I see some reviewers, they're in their 70s, have been listening to music their whole life, and there's still stuff that blows their minds when they hear it on albums they've had for 40, 50
Yeah.
years, So
it happens
just,
sometimes.
the resolution just continues to evolve.
Yeah, vinyl's definitely like that because like I've been playing this exact same, not like this exact same piece of vinyl for 40 years,
Yeah.
and I've never heard this before.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And I'm
so-
just running into that too now that
Yeah.
I've got the turntable and I finally got the PS Audio, what do they call it? Stellar?
Stellar.
Yeah, the Stellar phono preamp.
Yeah.
Really good piece. And we'll be talking about that once I get this thing finalized and my cartridge gets more hours on it and all that. But we'll bring the gear in here. But yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing on the album, some albums just kind of suck.
Yeah, right. They're
But
not
they,
all.
but they always sucked. I'm
That's
sure
what-
they
yeah.
always sucked. Yeah, there's nothing you could do about that.
Nope.
But like the Harry Belafonte is great. Led Zeppelin 2, great, great album.
We'll
I
cover
can't-
that in another video.
Yeah, we'll cover that
that's a
in
different
another
video.
To be in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
So in summary,
In summary, well, hey, if you want to know how to get a lot of resolution, call us. I mean, just in terms of everything, the gear, the cabling, everything, the system, we could advise you.
matching the set's hard because that's the biggest thing, right? If you have something in your
Especially
system that isn't
without
doing
trying
it,
it.
It just takes one thing,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, and filters out the details or skews them in a way where you may have resolution in some areas of the freq spectrum and not in the others, and so it doesn't sound right. So yeah, these are things we could fix on the important thing is to get the headphones in place first, the speakers, the transducers, get that set first. Otherwise, all the rest doesn't matter, right? If that can't resolve, then
Right.
then you can have the finest electronics in the world, but if the headphone's dull sounding or bright sounding, it's tough to fix that, you know. So
Of course.
that's primary.
Well, if there's any audio terminology that you're not familiar with and you want us to talk about it, leave it in the comments below. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.
Take care.